Imagine you're in a dark basement. Think you spot a shadow in the corner behind the stack of dusty newspaper. The corner of one of the newspapers moved. You hear a whisper. Chances are you describe this paranormal experience as something along the lines of, "Something moved in the corner. I heard a whisper." The newspaper moved. But these ways of talking about paranormal activity is unique to the 21st century. People have been fascinated with the paranormal for a long time. However, as we have discovered, different time periods treat paranormal activity differently. We use discourse analysis, which studies how everyday language reflects power and social values within our society, to study a number of relevant articles. Specific techniques we use were over-textualization, presupposition, verb processes, quoting verbs, and ghosts as a social agent. We study numbers of newspapers and online articles discussing paranormal activity. The older articles were from 1900s to the 1960s. The newer articles were from the 2000s to the present day. In the 20th century in Winona, Minnesota, the discourse around paranormal experiences were generally respectful, while in present-day discourse around a paranormal experience is treated as and discussed with less respect, in part because of modern science and shifting views of a ghost's purpose.
Articles from the past treat the paranormal experiences that people have in a unique way. These articles presuppose that in general, paranormal experiences are real, and their audiences only need to be convinced that the particular event in question is real. A presupposition is basically a taken-for-granted assumption that the author believes that their audience holds. The article, Patrice Tells Writer About Italian Ghost, is about the woman, Patrice, and her husband, who experienced various things such as a picture frame falling off a wall and a vaporous figure. They attribute these happenings to a ghost. What is important in the article is that the author doesn't spend any time talking about whether or not ghosts in general are real, and instead strictly focuses on the validity of the experiences of Patrice and her husband. In the following quotes describing the husband's testimony, the author is convincing the audience that he looked for possible alternatives and arrived at the most logical conclusion, that it was a ghost.
He said that the ghost had walked behind his bed and bumped into the picture and sent it crashing. To make sure, he said, he looked at the picture carefully to see that the nail that had done it hadn't broken and that the cloth holder hadn't broken. Nope, the picture had been knocked off by a ghost.
This quote shows that the husband tried to look for possible alternatives to a ghost such as the nail breaking. But despite the fact that there are no other witnesses and there wasn't a thorough debunking effort, the author is comfortable offering up a ghost as the explanation. Because this seems to be good enough evidence for the author, it would follow that he presupposes the same about his audience, that, because belief in the paranormal is common, only rough evidence is needed to justify believing in this particular account. Another article, titled Ghost Story, Miss Ella Duffy of La Crosse Sees an Apparition. This article is about a woman, Ella Duffy, who claimed to have been followed home by the ghost of a dead friend. This article is more impartial than the previous one we discussed. The author admits that,
while this story is not generally credited, Miss Duffy declares that it's the truth.
This quote shows us that the author isn't certain about the validity of the story, but he doesn't directly discredit Miss Duffy. He lets his predictions that she will see the ghost again
before the end of the week
end the piece. Because throughout the article, the author largely lets Miss Duffy's account stand for itself, with only minor commentary, as we just saw in the quote, the author seems to be presenting unchallenged facts. If one were to replace ghost with stalker, the article would simply be an account of an event that someone said happened. There are no reasons given that Miss Duffy shouldn't be believed, or is otherwise incredible. So the reader is to assume that the story being presented is true. Again, this article doesn't challenge the paranormal meaning that the author presupposes, that his audience already agrees that these types of experiences can happen. These older articles treat paranormal experiences as believable and credible. They presuppose that the audience believes in the existence of the paranormal and respect what the witnesses claim. This is different from the modern-day articles, which presuppose that their audience will not already believe in ghosts and doesn't respect the witness testimonies. The article by the Winona Daily News titled Investigating the Paranormal, Are You Here, Ghost?, is about a reporter and a photographer who look for paranormal experiences in the Winona Trinket Shop, Pieces of the Past. The way that the author writes about the investigation shows that he doesn't believe that his audience will accept the evidence that they gather. Furthermore, he undercuts Fred, the photographer, who does seem to think they experienced the paranormal. All this comes together at the end of the article when they are looking over some photos that show a strange ball of light, sometimes credited as being evidence of paranormal activity. The author says that the ones he was shown in other pictures
looked mostly like specks of dirt on the camera lens.
While he tries to be impartial by supposing that
this might be a real one,
in the end he comments that
it's hardly convincing evidence,
and ultimately dismisses the findings. Here, what Fred claims to feel and witness is thrown out by the author, something that the old articles didn't do. Similarly, in an article by the Winonan, also shows bias against the witnesses. They begin the article titled Lord's Haunting, Fact or Fiction, by discussing one of the popular stories that some of the students think is responsible for the ghost activity in the Lord's dorm. Then they quote a student, Riley, who says she believes that the
students who heard the story might have taken inspiration from it and devised the story of the Lord's ghost.
This quote is the explanation the author offers for the other students' claims of paranormal activity. They end the story by debunking the facts in the ghost story and ultimately discrediting the witness testimony. These present-day articles show a shift in the way that the testimonies of people who experience the paranormal are talked about. In old articles, witness testimony was respected and presented as though the audience already believed in the possibility of the paranormal, while the modern articles debunk the witnesses' experiences and presuppose that the audience doesn't believe in the paranormal. All this supports the claim that there was a shift in the way that the paranormal was discussed.
In this section, we will be looking at how ghosts are represented as social actors. A social actor is the focus on the person performing the action, in our case, ghosts. We will be looking at what aspects of the identity of these ghosts is omitted or highlighted. Ghosts are represented differently in terms of impersonalization and personalization, individualization and collectivization, and honorifics and objectification, which are tools of discourse analysis. They are similar to presupposition in that they also reveal power dynamics between the living and the ghosts. The 20th century uses personalization, individualization, and honorifics to humanize the ghosts. This gives the ghosts power over the living as well as a level of respect. In contrast, the 21st century uses impersonalization, collectivization, and objectification to diminish the ghost's power over the living and to reduce them to a form of entertainment and fascination. Ghosts are represented differently in terms of impersonalization and personalization from the 1900s to the 1960s, as opposed to the 21st century. Impersonalization refers to the removal of humanity and identity, whereas personalization refers to the level at which the agent is humanized and given its own identity. In older articles, the ghosts are more personalized. Most of the ghosts are specific people who have some relation to the victims of the hauntings. For example, in the article Ghost Story, the ghost is referred to as the ghost of a dead friend. This individualizes the ghost into a specific person. In contrast, ghosts from 2000 to today are highly impersonalized in more current articles. Many of the ghosts are referred to as ghosts, the paranormal, or spirits. In many instances, the ghost's identity is erased to the point of being called someone or something. Looking at an example from the website Ghost Sightings, it says,
"It looked like someone just kicked the blanket."
Throughout this article, the narrator/victim emphasizes that their sister's home is haunted by a ghost, but uses impersonalization to dismiss the ghost as someone instead of pursuing to individualize the ghost. The impersonalization of ghosts in the 20th century succeeds in creating respect for the ghost. This comes in the form of emphasizing the humanity of the ghost. By calling the ghost a dead friend, this emphasizes that the ghost was not only once a human, but also a friend. In this way, the ghost is portrayed in a positive light. In contrast, when the 21st century articles refer to ghosts as the paranormal or something, this removes the humanity of the ghost. Without the humanity of the ghost, it is diminished to a form of entertainment or fascination. In this way, the respect of the ghosts gives them authority and power in the 20th century, whereas the 21st century uses impersonalization to undermine ghosts' power. This power pertains to the narrative agency and individual will that ghosts are given to the living. This incorporates respect for the ghosts as individual entities that were once human. Ghosts are also represented differently in the 20th and 21st centuries in terms of individualization and collectivization. Individualization refers to how much a person is made into a unique and dynamic agent. Collectivization refers to how much agents are grouped together without any defining characteristics setting them apart. You can see this when looking at the older articles. The ghosts are mostly individualized. Even in the article, normal persons sometimes have strange experiences, which focuses more vaguely on the existence of ghosts, still individualizes ghosts. Take the example,
a woman was knitting in her Ohio home one afternoon, when she heard her mother's voice.
In this example, the woman heard her mother who had died a few hours prior. This ghost is highly individualized in relation to the woman. In contrast, the 20th century is known to collectivize ghosts. In the article investigating the paranormal, Are You Here, Ghost?, a group of people are searching for a specific ghost, but still find a way to collectivize ghosts as much as possible. One of the many examples includes,
we convinced the Petersons to let us hunt for ghosts inside their building.
In this example, the specific ghost that they are searching for is collectivized into many ghosts. In the 20th century, ghosts were individualized, which gave them a level of respect. Individualization of the ghosts gives significance to the individual ghost and focuses attention on just that single ghost. This aids in humanizing the ghost as well, which aids to their deserved respect. In the 21st century, however, ghosts are collectivized, which erases their humanity. When they are grouped together in this way, they are stereotyped, and their personal reasons for haunting a place or causing certain actions are erased. Their personal agency is removed, reducing them to a form of pest that needs to be removed like any rodent or bug infestation. In this way, their humanity is diminished, and they are reduced to a form of entertainment. The diminishing of ghosts as either pests or entertainment undermines the ghost's power over humans, whereas the individualization used in the 20th century humanizes the ghosts, which gives them equal power and respect with the living. Finally, the use of honorifics and objectification repeats trends from the previous discourse analysis tool findings. Honorific refers to how agents are represented according to their titles of authority, in other words, what they do. Objectification refers to the extent at which agents are reduced to objects that form their identity. In the older articles, the word ghost becomes a title of respect. It stands for what ghosts do, which is to haunt people and places. In this next example from the article, Patrice tells writer about Italian ghost, look at how the word ghost becomes a title of authority.
Maybe the ghost didn't like the subject of the painting.
Here, individualization or personalization could have been used to name the person the ghost had once been, but the title ghost gives authority to the disliking of the painting. In contrast, the 21st century uses the word ghost to collectivize ghosts, but goes further to objectify ghosts in order to undermine their power further. Throughout the 21st century articles, passive voice is relied upon heavily in order to remove ghosts as agents. In addition, objectification is used to shift the ghost's identities onto physical objects. An example from the article, Lord's Haunting, Fact or Fiction is,
students also experienced shadows moving across their doorway when no one was in the hallway, paper bowls launching across the room from the top of their dresser, and what they described as orbs or lights from their room.
In this example, the ghosts are objectified as shadows, paper bowls, or orbs of lights. The use of honorifics and objectification represents ghosts differently in the 20th and 21st centuries. Honorifics are used to make the term ghost into a title of respect and agency. The 20th century uses honorifics to give ghosts a level of respect and power. However, the 21st century uses objectification to diminish ghosts to mere objects, and uses the passive voice to create these objects as agents of action, instead of the ghosts themselves. This entirely erases the ghost's power over the living. This is also a method of control over ghosts. Paper bowls and lights are more controllable by the living than the abstract concept of a ghost.